Hi everyone, welcome to the Fertility Network More to Life webinar. Tonight we have Dr. Sofia Gameiro, clinical psychologist and reader in health psychology at Cardiff University, joining us. She's going to talk about the MyJourney app. So if anyone has any questions, can you please ask them in the chat at the end, anonymously if possible. And I'll ask the questions to Sophia at the end of the presentation. So I'm hoping, are you there, Sophia?
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to change it over so that you've got, you're able to be the host, and then we can get started.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, that's okay. I can start. So thanks for the invitation to speak here today. Just a bit of background maybe. So I am a health psychologist and clinical psychologist by training also at Cardiff University. And my work is mostly about being an academic. So I do research into the psychosocial support for people who go through fertility treatment. But even just from the moment of that they start thinking about having children. And in recent years, my work has focused on supporting those people for whom treatment does not work.
Yeah.
And more broadly, who just cannot conceive spontaneously or have an unfulfilled child wish, regardless of the life path that kind of led to that situation. Also, just to say that I am now purely a kind of academic, but before I did practice infertility care for around 5 years while I was in Portugal. So I'm originally from Portugal, but then I moved to the UK to take an academic job, and that changed. So I'm just going to share my screens.
And I'll switch my camera off and let you kind of just...
oh yeah, no, there's a little issue now here. So should have done it. Okay. Okay. So there's someone who wants to come in. Should I admit them? You're muted now.
Yeah, sorry, I've forgotten I wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. Can you still see me, Sophia?
Yes. Should I admit this person now?
Yeah, I'll see if I can.
There, it's there. But maybe just keep an eye, because other people may want to join.
Okay.
So I'm going to speak mostly about an app, a web app that we've developed at Cardiff. And it's a work that was led by me, but also at the time my PhD student, Beth Rowbottom, who previously to doing a PhD with me worked for HAVA. And so was quite familiar with the kind of patient journey. And the reason why she did the PhD was because she wanted to focus more strongly on the patient experience. Now, for me, although I had been doing research in fertility care for a while, I really wasn't that aware of the issue of ending treatment, or the definitive ending of treatment without children, until I worked with some colleagues from the Netherlands who did a follow-up of people up to 11 and 14 years after they finished treatment. And these were some of the results that we obtained. And I think at the time, what I found really striking, as you can see here in this graph, is so these were women reporting on their mental health 11 to 17 years after doing treatment. And on the left, we have those women who achieved parenthood with treatment, and on the right, women who did treatment but did not achieve parenthood. And I think what struck me at the time is that you can see here that the thing that is really associated with low mental health is not the fact that they had children or not, but if they still had a wish for children or more children. So these two bars here, when people still have an ongoing wish, still have that unfulfilled child wish, they really suffer from not being able to realize that goal. And in this group of the right, we could hypothesize that with time, some of the people that were on the right, so who had a child wish, were able to manage it to the point that they come to terms with that and could see themselves as not having a child wish anymore. And that would also be associated with higher mental health, and as we saw from other studies, also just better well-being and that kind of a sense of being, a balance in life and fulfillment in life, regardless of the kind of parental status. So for me, this was really a kind of the moment where I started developing awareness of the suffering associated with this experience. At the same time, I worked with the European Society for Human Reproduction, which brings together all the professionals working in Europe. And I chaired the fertility psychosocial care guidelines. And there we found out that there weren't any kind of research tested support for patients who went through treatment and finished without having children. So in my language, there were no evidence-based interventions that had been tested and proved to really help the people in this situation. So that this is kind of the context. Although we know from working with partners that, in the UK, you have the BICA Association of Fertility Counselors. You can just use general counselors and therapists. And you have, of course, the incredible support of charities like Fertility Network UK, which have a group that is just to support these people. And then there's like a lot of patient-led initiatives in the UK, but this is really rare in other countries, I have to say. The UK really lead these, the charity, the third sector, and the patient kind of led types of support. But from my perspective as a scientist, the same issue kind of remained, in the sense that these types of supports have not yet been evaluated in the sense of really having evidence that they're doing good for most people. So that led us to kind of start working on trying to develop an intervention or what support tool and evaluate that. And now I need to say that I've done that work. Again, I already talked about Beth and Rowbottom, but also in close collaboration with Ana Galhardo, which is a psychologist and colleague from Portugal, who is also part of the Portuguese Fertility Association, so the equivalent of Fertility Network in Portugal, which is called AP Fertilidade. And they funded and really sponsored this project. And then other institutions also in Portugal and in the UK, like our universities, and the UK Council for Economic and Social Research also supported this work. And what happened was that we produced a app that was initially bilingual, but now has now been translated also in 5 languages. Is available in five languages. So, but before that, what the first piece of work that we did was to really try to map the experience of going through the end of fertility treatment when it doesn't work. And we did that by reviewing all the studies that had been published. So at that point, both quantitatively, both quantitative studies and qualitative. But anyway, what we realized was that the end of fertility treatment triggers quite an intense and prolonged period of grief, similar to bereavement, where people really experience quite intense sadness, loss, feel very isolated from the rest of the world, and tend to feel kind of secure in their relationship, but may experience, for instance, sexual problems that kind of are the result of having gone through the treatment period, which interferes so much with that aspect of the relationship. And so it's quite a difficult, the immediate aftermath of treatment is quite difficult. There's also feelings of being left down by the clinic, and anger towards, many times, frustration and anger towards the clinic and the rest of the world. We also saw that at the social level, there was both avoidance of social situations where there might be children, because of course that triggers pain and it's difficult to be in those situations, but also a sense of isolation because you kind of get out of sync with your peers that may be starting their families or already have their families, and you see the kind of fertile world continuing, and you tend to feel alone. And then there was a lot of kind of rethinking about the process of having gone through treatment and the difficult kind of experiences there. But in a way, ending treatment was also empowering for people in the sense that then they could finally think about managing their child desire. They stopped kind of waiting for things to happen, and they could then now have a role in managing that desire. And people would find ways to conceptualize the fact that they ended treatment in more positive ways, as giving the opportunity for someone else to try, and other ways. But overall, it was a difficult period, and a period that took time, and a lot of kind of thinking about who we can be and how can we move forward in a way. Sorry, I think I talked about all these things. Now also what this work showed was that there were really 3 things that people did that helped them move forward, or that they needed to do in order to move forward. One was to make meaning of the situation, and it was a little bit what I was saying. I now kind of am in a situation where I realize I may not be the parent that I wish to be. What kind of person can I be? How am I going to live my life now in a way that it's meaningful? And this is a period that takes time. It's a kind of reflection that evolves over a long period of time, and not an easy kind of reflection to do. But with time, people find new meanings, both for their past treatment experience and for what their life can be. And so as some of a patient said, I think a lot of people do go back and question of what's my meaning. Another aspect is building acceptance, and by these I mean, in a way, learning to accept the pain and living with the pain on a day-to-day basis, but not letting that pain stop you from living your life, and accepting that from time to time there will be suffering, but with time that will be less often, or will be less intense, or will be less paralyzing in a way. So also, as a patient said, I think there will always be a sense of loss around wanting to have children. I don't think I have necessarily let go of that. I think just an acceptance of where you are, and actually it's okay to be where you are. You can live in a way. We can live despite this pain. And then that shift of of the identity also translating into pursuing other goals in life. And sometimes these some of the patients said that they would just like do hobbies or try hobbies to distract themselves from the pain. But that with time, those things would start to bring a sense of pleasure or mastery, and therefore a kind of meaningfulness to it, and progressively they would be able to move forward. And so this is really the kind of three things that most people talked about that will allow them to progressively move on with life, and would then reflect in a sense of being more comfortable with themselves, of being in a kind of in equilibrium with the world and people around themselves, and having a sense of hope towards what life could offer. And so that's kind of what MyJourney tries to do, is to facilitate, to prompt people to engage with these three processes, these kind of psychological processes, which we kind of represented here. So this is kind of acceptance, deal with difficult thoughts, feelings, and situations, which are of course related with that unfulfilled child wish. Develop new insights into who you are and what you value. So the kind of meaning making, and then explore new pathways in life and looking towards a hopeful future. And this is really what MyJourney is in a nutshell, is giving you little clues to try to move through these steps. And it does that by using this metaphor of journey, which was how, and probably it's how most people referred to their fertility journey. So a sense that there was always, a moving towards this or through this experience. And so we have a kind of a map that has 10 steps, and each step is a psychotherapeutic activity, let's call it. And we recommend at the start, we recommended users to do one step per week, but our work has shown that usually people take longer than a week to do each step. And then at the end of the step, there would be a little additional exercises that would be available in the, or that are available in the backpack area of the app, that are just things that people can use to practice some of the skills involved in these therapies on a day-to-day basis. And that's really what you have when you enter the MyJourney. So you have these 10 steps and then you can just click to start. And as you can see here, so this is really more about giving a little bit of information about what most people experience in this situation, which is what I just said in the previous slides. And then they go through these different steps that, as you can see here, target the different aspects of what helps most people moving forward. And then at the end, it allows people to review a little bit that journey, but also to review it in a way of thinking about what things were most helpful, so that they can come back to. And so in a sense that they have that kind of set of tools that they can take with them. What else? So we can go into sorry, just to say, MyJourney here, it's available here, www.myjourney.pt. For some reason it's not there. You just have to, it will ask you to register. It's a simple process to do, and then you go straight into the map where you have these 10 steps, and you can just start moving. Now, what MyJourney does, it allowed us to collect some data about how people used to use it. And so just to tell you some of the things that we've learned about how people use MyJourney, here on the axis, on the x-axis, you can see the 10 steps of MyJourney. And what we've noticed is that several people would kind of register but never even start the first step. So that would be around only half would actually start the first step. And then not everyone would commit to MyJourney. You can see that there was lots of people who would start and not move forward. And then when they got to the fourth step, they would be more likely to continue and to kind of move forward. So for us, it means that what we took from it is that MyJourney, not everyone engages with MyJourney. Now, there were three main reasons that people would talk about for not engaging with it. One was just life, all the different kind of life commitments and lack of time. And I think it's related with how we use many apps that we take a look but never really commit to using them, even though sometimes we feel that we would really benefit from it. And I'm always telling myself I'm going to do the Headspace mindful app, and then I just don't do it. And then the other one was a little bit of related with technical issues, because let's be frontal, there's no tech company behind it. This was produced in an academic context, so it's not the most advanced interface, and etc. etc. And then the last thing was related with the fact that for some people, even engaging with support can be triggering in itself. It already requires a little bit of acceptance that it's what they need to do is to engage with this support. So it's something that it's difficult to do. And so those were the three main reasons. But overall, these were kind of the ratings. Overall, people found that, they liked the interface. They thought it was visually appealing, easy to understand, inclusive of people with different experiences or different pathways. They trusted the content. And then they thought that well-being feedback and kind of step assessment, so we would ask you some questions at the end of each step, were useful, but were moderate useful, not extremely useful. So, and also you can see here that most people would recommend it to other people. And less people said they would kind of intend to keep using, but this is also related with the fact that it's kind of a journey, it's 10 steps. And once you reach the 10 steps, you can use some of the tools, but there's no additional kind of things to explore, let's say. Now, what was also very good to see was, and so this is based on quite rigorous research, was that those people who did use MyJourney, they would, in the space of 10 weeks, show a significant increase in their well-being. And so this first graph shows everyone who started using MyJourney, while this group here shows everyone who did at least 6 steps of the 10 steps offered. And you can see that the increase in well-being is much more marked in this group. And so also after that 10 weeks of using MyJourney, we asked them to report on their well-being again 6 months after, and you can see that half a year after, the well-being is kind of sustained. So it's not a temporary benefit. It seems to sustain, to be there for at least 6 months. That was the limit of our follow-up. So that's good news. It shows that those people who use it do benefit from using MyJourney. And at the same time, so this was this previous graph was really from a study that we've conducted, and we asked people to do some, all the research procedures and etc. And they were compared with a control group who did not receive any support, and at the end of doing the study were then given access to MyJourney. But you can see that those people who did not have any other tool, and their kind of well-being, didn't change, while it's quite striking the change for the group who used MyJourney. Now, the MyJourney in itself collects this data on well-being as people go through the different tasks. And you can see here, this is the curve for well-beings for people who do one step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, and etc. And what you can see, I think this is, again, it's very clear, is that most people who start using MyJourney do have impaired well-being compared with the UK average for women. And this is women because most users are indeed women. And as they use MyJourney, their well-being progressively goes up. Again, this is quite a significant increase. And then as it kind of gets to the norm, it tends to stabilize. So we could almost say that from task 6, there's not really any additional benefit, at least on the kind of short-term impact and in terms of just this particular measure of adjustment. But we did see that there are other benefits in terms of mental health that reflect a little bit, tend to appear a little bit later in time. Now, the other work that we've done is that we are doing more and more now is to call or raise awareness about the duty of fertility clinics to really support those patients who are in this situation. And we've been constantly sending the message that it's not okay not to support them, and that is the reality at the moment. And we've done this in different ways. First, we have done different just talks at different scientific conferences where we say we know that there's a high percentage of people for whom treatment doesn't work, tends to be 4 in 10 people who start treatment. You can't just ignore this group of people. The other one is to actually try to develop support tools both for patients while they're still in treatment, so that they can prepare in advance for that possibility, and for staff so that they feel better able to engage in those kinds of conversations with their patients. And that's what's here. If you want to access these links, that's what we offer here. And we've also run other types of, we work a lot with healthcare staff, and they've done research in terms of focus groups and really asking them, what's keeping you from engaging more in these conversations with patients? What would you need to be better able to do that? And so some of the things that have come out of that is a sense of not having the right skills to talk about difficult news and sensitive topics. So since then, we've also developed training for basically sharing bad news, but sharing bad news in the most hopeful way, sensitive and hopeful way, or empathic and hopeful way possible. And I think I've talked enough, and I would prefer if people would ask me questions, and there was some kind of dialogue, but I hope this was helpful. And please visit www.myjourney.pt.
Thank you very much, Sophia. So if you want to just stop sharing screen, I'll come back on and we'll have a look at questions.
Oops, wait, cancel, stop questions. There.
So, or somebody,
hello, thanks for showing your face.
If you don't mind, Mia, could you possibly not, because this is going to be shared with, so I think maybe it'd be better if people didn't have their cameras on. Is that okay? And you put it in the chat, or if you're happy to.
That's fine. I don't mind at all. I just wanted to say thank you to Prof, because one of the slides that strikes the most for me is that one in which she compares the mental well-being of women who pursue at least to try to explore motherhood or not, beyond nearly whether this is successful or not, and how important it is for our own well-being to try to approach it. So I think this is a super important bit of information that I haven't found anywhere else, and I'm very grateful for that, because this is precisely the reason why I've started this journey, as she says. And my second comment is, I already look at your platform ahead of this meeting, and I think it's beautiful, to be honest. The interface, as you say, it's quite academic, which is fine, but the information given and the prompts are actually very nicely explained. So I think it's wonderful, and it's great. I found out by the Fertility Network. I'm not sure whether could be advertised in other forums or somewhere else, even in, I don't know, through GP networks or somewhere where there might be silent women who have gone through all this, perhaps without much support. But other than that, it's actually a wonderful job that you are leading. So thank you for this.
Thank you for your feedback. It's very rewarding. Sorry, we tend to see numbers and data, and less often to have the opportunity to actually hear people's actual experiences of using it.
Can I just say, Sophia, there's a few questions come up. Can I just say, I think that if you go to Fertility Network UK and you look for the Living Without Children, there is actually a link on the page to MyJourney, and it takes you to the www.journey, MyJourney/ was it .pt that you said? I think.
Yes, .pt, yes. Yeah. Yes, it is there. At least it was the last time I checked.
Yeah, so
it's in the more to life support.
Yeah. I've got a question here asking, can you provide a reference for your research, please? So I don't know if you understand that.
Yes, I can provide several reference, and I don't know if this exactly now it's the best time to do it. I can put it in the chat at the end of the meeting, and
or maybe what might be better, if you're happy to do that, but maybe what might be better to do as well is if you email it to me, then people can email me with it. So it's anna@fertilitynetworkscotland.org. So if you send me an email, Sophia, if you kind of send me an email, I can pass on that information.
Yes,
that's okay.
I can do that. No problem.
Yeah. So next person, thank you for your helpful talk. Do you see the app having a place between finishing IVF and trying the adoption process? Do you think you have to become accepting of being childless before adoption is appropriate? So there's sort of two-part question there.
Yeah, so well, first of all, I think there's a multitude of trajectories, and that's another thing we've learned with some research we're doing now, where we've actually testing an intervention that starts during fertility treatment at the start of the last cycle. It kind of, encourages patients to have a conversation about, what about if your last cycle doesn't work? And do you want to know what most patients experience and what may be some helpful things to move forward? And in this work, what happens is that, of course, people do engage with that and they like it, even though sometimes they decide to continue treatment. All people tend to find that helpful, even when they decide to continue. So in that sense, this discussion can be helpful because it's also about trying to think about the bigger picture of what does parenthood mean and how you can kind of think of your life with or without children a little bit and how you can navigate those things. In the resources that we've done and we've put there, we have kind of information about other routes towards parenthood which include third-party donation, but also adoption. And we've put that there because in all the work we did, focus groups and etc. with patients, they said it's something that they want to do when they, when they reach the end of fertility treatment with their own gametes. So from the perspective that patients find this information helpful as things to explore, we've made that available. Now, the transition from fertility treatment to adoption, again, I think will vary for different people. What currently happens is that if you're pursuing fertility treatment, you cannot pursue adoption. And I think that's very easy to understand why at the same time. But I don't see any incompatibility of pursuing one or the other after. And people, some people do treatment because they think the genetic tie with a child is very, very important. And for those people, adoption will not be an option. And that's fine. It's their lives. They make their decisions. Other people may pursue treatment because of other reasons, such as they may find that the adoption process is, the scrutiny involved, or even the uncertainty and how long it takes, because it takes around 2 years to unfold. They may find that very challenging and may sometimes mistakenly think that going through treatment is going to be an easier journey in a way. So not about the tie with the child, but just thinking about how can I become a parent maybe faster, let's say. So it depends really. It depends on the different motives and how people see what being a parent means, and there's a lot of different meanings attributed to that too.
Yeah, I think I'll go to that. The other question about adoption as well. This person said, "I'm infertile and adopted, and so adoption is obviously not an option for me, as I need a genetically related child, and besides, one is still infertile even if one adopts. I'd like to hear your thoughts on infertility trauma as it affects adoptees, and also why you suggest adoption as treatment for infertility when adoptees' right groups are totally against this. And being adopted for reasons of infertility is very traumatic for adoptees, since we cannot replace biological children and deserve not to be second best." So I don't, did you kind of get the kind of gist of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can make a few comments about that. So just to say, I've never suggested adoption as a treatment for fertility. I think it's a pathway that people can explore if they want to be parents, and there's different pathways people can explore. And so from my perspective, giving that information of all different pathways for people, it's empowering and should be done. Fertility Network does that, and so on. But I think it could also happen at clinics. So that's one point. The other point is, and we were talking a little bit about this, there's very little research in what is considered the trauma of infertility. We know that infertility and fertility have a big impact on mental health, but it has seldom or very rarely been conceptualized as trauma. And I'm not aware of research that looks at the experiences of adopted children under fertility treatment. All the studies that look at parenthood after fertility treatment indicate that it's not the method of conception that is going to be relevant for the well-being of children, but it's aspects such as the mental health of the parents, the level of support that they have within their partnership, and a little bit, the social within their social network. And so those factors are important for everyone who becomes a parent, regardless of how they became parent. There's also a lot of other studies about, all kinds of uses of medical treatment to achieve parenthood, and all kinds of studies on adoption. Where the message is constantly the same. It hasn't the well-being of the children is dependent on sensitive parenting, and sensitive parenting is dependent on having the right resources, individual in terms of mental health, but also social in terms of a supportive context around you.
Yeah. There's a second part. What are your thoughts on the 10% of women that just don't get better, for whom things like MyJourney and CBT simply fail or make things worse? So what do you think about that, and what would maybe been an alternative for them?
So first of all, I think it's very encouraging to know that despite going through such a devastating experience, 9 out of 10 people, so the majority of people do overcome this experience and rebuild lives that they find meaningful and they and hopeful. Now, our research shows that 1 in 10 people do not. But our research also shows that around the same percentage of people, when they start, for every 10 patients that start fertility treatment, 1 or 2 in 10 will already be experiencing mental health difficulties and lack of well-being. So what overall the research suggests is that some people already come into the kind of the journey, the fertility journey, with some level of psychological vulnerability, and that psychological vulnerability makes everything difficult for them. And so in this case, it's not having children, and they don't have the resources to overcome that suffering. But we suspect that, these people who already have a psychological vulnerability, if confronted with other big life challenges, might react in the similar way. Yeah. So unfortunately, all the psychological research shows that there's always an interplay with our kind of resources and life stressful events. Yeah. And if you already have a vulnerability, then things will be harder.
Yeah. Okay. And is there anything that people could do if they find that the app isn't working, or is it just?
I think people should look for mental health support. Now, MyJourney is a kind of, it's a self-guided app. Yeah. You use it as you can, and we call it a low threshold app. So it will work for, it provides a low level of support. Some people will benefit from more structured ongoing support, and that's what these 10% of people should access. Now, we know that sometimes it's not easy because the support is not out there, because going through the NHS can take its time, but also very important, and we've also been trying to raise awareness about that. Many people don't understand the impact of not realizing your parenthood, goals as a sufficient life event trigger, to trigger significant suffering. And so more understanding of that at kind of primary care level and mental health care level is also needed.
Yeah. So it's possibly looking for some form of therapy, whether it's counselling or some other kind of therapeutic intervention that people may need to be looking for there. Yeah. Okay, so another question. It's referred to as an app, but I cannot find it in the App Store. Is it available as an app, or is it on the website?
It's a web app, so it's not you have to go to the website. And what it allows you to do is, when you go there, it allows you to download like you can have it in your phone, a little thing in your home screen. But basically, what she's doing, it's always going to a website. So it's not an app in the sense of the mobile apps that we download to our computer, to our phone.
Yeah. Okay. And somebody's asking, is it relevant to people who have not undergone treatment but may still be in that category of being childless, not by choice?
I think it's relevant for anyone who may realize that their desire for children may not be realized. So if people are in the situation where they're confronting that possibility, then I think it is helpful.
Yeah. I've got a question for you. You did mention that it's mainly female people that use the app. I'm just wondering, is it suitable for males, and is it something that they maybe should consider using? Because I think we're finding there are more men coming and approaching us about kind of infertility and that. So it'd be interesting to hear what you think about that.
It's a question that it's always asked, and it's hard to answer because we find it very difficult to we start from the position where we want to develop support that it's as inclusive as possible, but we need to engage with the people that are going to use that support, and it's difficult to engage with men in a research context. We had a few men that collaborated with us, and some of them found it helpful, but we also have a lot of research that shows that men tend to cope in different ways, and they cope by distraction, by focusing on other things in their lives, and that tends to suit them a little bit better. They don't talk so much, or in general, they also feel that they need to be there to support their partners, and so they may suppress their own need for to talk about these things. So they like to go on a walk and talk without looking at the other person in the face, so they have some kind of protection. I don't know. I think the fact that men are not, tend to access it less indicates that they're less attracted to this type of support.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I can people go back and use it, sort of like, is it sort of one of these things you can go back and do things again?
So you log in, you register, you log in, and then from that moment you can always use it. But it's kind of as you want. Yeah. And although it takes you on a journey or a trajectory where you go through when you're advised to go through the steps successfully, and you do have to go through the steps successively. So you can't do step 6 without doing step 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. But you can go back to step 1 when you're on step 5, and you can do all the 10 steps and go back and do whatever the ones that you found most useful. And you can use the things in the backpack also associated with each step. Okay.
I think that is all of the questions, unless anybody has any last minute ones. I think I've worked my way through them. I can't see any more. I'll just check. No. So, yeah, that's it. Okay, well, Sophia, I just want to say thank you very much. That's been really interesting. And it just, I think in a way, it kind of made sense, when you were talking about the kind of acceptance, and I wrote them down, the three kind of steps: acceptance, making meaning, and pursuit of new life goals. It just, it just really kind of, I thought that I found that really helpful. So thank you very much for the talk.
No problem. I was just going to say that if I've just accessed the website, and I could very quickly show the app if you want.
Yeah, please, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I could have thought about this a little bit earlier. That was a bit silly of my part. Sorry. And the other thing I wanted to also add is that I'm very I don't do well several things at the same time. Is that here? Can you see this?
Yeah.
So I just logged in, and as soon as you log in, it will ask you for some very basic information, and then you go into this section. And let's see if I can do it bigger. No, I don't think I can. Yes, I can. There. So here you see we're in the map, and you have the several points, several steps here. So you can see that I've gone through all the steps. As a user, I've gone through all the steps, and I'm now here on the, and I can continue in doing the 10 steps, but I can also, if you see here, start over.
Right, yeah.
So we could start over. So I don't know. So let's see here. Be kind to yourself. So first it will ask, it always asks for how you feel in the moment. So I'm just now going to reply a little bit randomly so that we can move forward. And then it gives you information. So I've answered, with kind of a low, my scores were low, let's say, these random scores, but it allows you to understand your well-being score with where, most people locate. And then also gives you advice in terms of where your well-being score is. And if you score low several times, and that's the case of, it will tell you should seek more structured support. So this is here for both ethical and support reasons. But of course, it would, when people are experiencing a certain level, this will not be the best resource for them. And then what it does is that, as the colleague, as Mireia, who spoke, said, it does kind of explain you some of these ideas try to give it in a simple way. It tries to, it always presents quotes of other people in a similar situation. And then it offers you mindfulness meditations, which is one way to help you accept emotions and how they feel in the body, and etc. So you can just play them, and they're all specific about. They were all specifically designed for the app and for the people who are going through this specific life experience. And then it allows you so this is about self-compassion, and the reality is that we women tend to be very self-critical, and so this is about treating ourselves in a more compassionate way, and especially in relation to feelings of failure around not being able to have a child, to have the child that we wanted, and so it uses exercises basically that have been proved to show. And so for a sentence, we always tend to be more easily compassionate towards our friends than ourselves. So it prompts you to talk to yourself as you were talking to a friend in need. So that's a simple way to kind of make people develop insight about how you can be compassionate towards yourself. It kind of uses responses you gave previously, so it directs your exercises. This is here in Portuguese because the app is available in different languages, and I also presented it in Portugal. And so it goes through this kind of, it's very simple steps. It takes 5 minutes to read this, but to do and engage with these exercises, it can take a long time to do. And then at the end, you can say, you can rate for yourself if you thought this was helpful and how you feel. And this will give you information also in the past. It allows you to see, okay, what were the things that most helped me through the app. And then once you finish, you have also little activities, again, that, each one of them takes a minute or 3 minutes, and you can do it. So for instance, I don't know, like, so for instance, for self-compassion, here you have another mindfulness. So you can see here, this is a mindfulness, this is a kind of journaling activity. So it's about you writing a postcard to yourself, a self-compassionate postcard. So we try to have different activities that, could interest different people in different ways. So they would have a plurality of options, and some would make sense for them and some might not. And it's not more than this, really. So I'll stop sharing now.
Okay, that looks brilliant, actually. And I suppose in some ways it's helping people maybe kind of like develop skills that they maybe haven't had before that they can then take on.
Exactly. So as you go through these activities, you develop, it's the goals and that's kind of what's behind all kind of, cognitive therapies, is to give you skills that you can take for life. And it will help you for this particular challenge, but it can help you in other challenges that you face in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for attending. I'm just going to is there anything else you want to say before I'm going to stop recording if we're kind of.
I just wanted to say thanks for people for attending, and I hope that this was helpful in any way. And I will send the email with the references, and if people want to ask any other questions, I think my email is also available, and I can share it, and it will be totally fine.
And I did put my email address in the chat box, but if anybody does have any questions and they want to direct them through me, my email's on the website, but it is anna@fertilitynetworkscotland.org, and I can always contact you if I've got any sort of inquiries or queries that I can't answer for people myself. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Yeah.